Bonjour. Bonjour.
We are here today to show you how to carry out a high pressure site check.
First of all, what do we understand by high pressure?
So these are works of water at high pressure, which equates to 250 bars or over 25 bars for a pump with a power greater than 10 kilowatts.
Okay, so what is one of the first things that we do when we come to carry out a site check?
So one of the first things that we check is to check the paperwork, make sure we have a valid work permit, the operating procedure, and also the checklist.
Okay, fine. So with regards to the work permit, what do we specifically look at regarding this point?
Well, first of all, are we on the right equipment? So the next thing we do is to find out if we're working in an ATEX zone. If this is the case, the grounding of the equipment is mandatory, as well as the use of ATEX equipment in that zone. So the next thing we look at is the lockout procedures, make sure we have availability and that the staff is informed.
Okay, fine. The next question is with regards to the operation procedure. What point should we look at regarding this?
So the operation procedure shows the chronology of the operation. We will look at everything which relates to manpower, habilitations, roles, number of people.
With regards to the people and their roles, I've heard of a role called a sentinel or overseer.
Yes, the overseer. On the high pressure site, we are likely to have 3 people. We will have a supervisor, the operator, and the overseer. The supervisor can act as the overseer as long as he has clear line of sight on the operator. If this is not the case, we'll put a third person called the overseer. As I said earlier on, we were talking about the operation procedure, manpower, and also equipment used. The restraining device, protection screens, restraining strap. All this is taken into account in the operational procedure.
So, the operation procedure talks about manpower, equipment. I would also like to talk about the last operation, the cleaning phase.
Yes, a good point. So, this is the last operation, the cleaning phase. This is taken into account in the operational procedure. It defines what needs to be put in place to clean up the area at the end of the works. And this zone cannot be cleaned with any tools. For example, it is forbidden to work with hoses. This has to be stated in the operational procedure itself.
So we've had a look at the work permit, the operation procedure. All that's left is the checklist to look at.
Yeah, so the checklist is done by the supervisor, so let's go and have a look.
Okay, Sylvain, so we have arrived at the high pressure cleaning area. With regards to the company, do we need to look at everything in the checklist?
No, we don't need to check everything in the checklist. The supervisor draws up the checklist, he does it, but we just need to verify some points in this checklist. For example, we will check some of his habilitations.
You have them? Yes, here they are.
Thank you. So we have one for the supervisor, his name is Pascal. Pascal, it's you, isn't it?
Yes.
And we have one for the operator who will be using the high pressure hose.
What is important to note is that in France the habilitation is the S3C, in Belgium it's the SIR, and in countries where there is no habilitation there is at least some training done.
Yep, that's right. So we are going to check a second point. We are going to check the personnel side of things to see if we have the correct number of people. In relation to the work site, do we have the right number of people here?
For me, yes, I have line of sight on the operator, so 2 people with a restraining system.
Okay, that's fine for me here. So this is where it gets a bit technical. The supervisor has an ABAC to enable him to select the correct nozzle for the job. Yeah, so he'll explain here how it works.
I have here an ABAC with the different nozzles to be used with the different diameters.
There are 3 zones. The green zone here, zone is from 0 to 15 kilos. The yellow zone with a back pressure 15 to 25 kilos. And the orange zone over 25 kilos, so automatic works.
For the checklist, is there frequency in terms of checking it? Is it every hour, every month, every week?
No, not at all. It is to be done before starting an operation, but it is also linked to the work permit, linked to the correct equipment number. For example, If he's working on that exchanger, then he goes to work on another capacity with a different work permit, he has to redo a checklist. If he stays on the same equipment but over 2 shifts, he redoes a checklist. The checklist is nominative, and it is the supervisor who does the checklist.
He validates, yeah?
The supervisor validates the checklist.
When we talk about the checklist, we can also look at the work environment, how we cordon off the area.
Yep, so we've checked the credentials, if the team is okay, the correct people. Now we can check the barrier tape, which has to be at 6 meters from the nozzle point for high pressure work. The operator will be in the work zone and is equipped with specific PPE. The supervisor, who also has the role as the overseer, doesn't need to be equipped with the specific PPE as he is outside the high pressure zone.
The 6 meters zone, yeah.
So after we check the operator's PPE, the work coat, the high pressure safety shoes, the coveralls, hearing protection, the visor with the glasses underneath and gloves. After we check all the hoses, so we need to have the annual checklist. This has to be present. We also check all the anti-whip retention systems. We also check all the clipping areas for the grounding or the earthing of electrical equipment. And we also check the protective screens. So here we are working on an exchanger, so we also install a restraining device and make sure that this is in place. Very important. So we've already spoken about the earthing or the grounding. We also check the good housekeeping around the work site and making sure it's tidy and clean. So this is what we check for the site.
Okay, very good, excellent. We've talked about equipment, the organisation, but what I also want to know about is the safety aspect in case of accidents. What happens in this eventuality? How do we alert people? In case of an accident, I have a talkie-walkie to contact the shift manager directly, a fixed line telephone over here, and an emergency shower just behind. The S3C have created a first aid form to be used in case of injuries caused by high pressure works. The red side is used for the first aid measures on site. The other side, blue border, is destined for the doctor. This S3C first aid form, along with the material safety data sheet, must always accompany the victim. At the hospital, you must notify them that this is an injury caused by high pressure waterworks and indicate which products or chemical additives added to the water were used. Okay, Sylvain, we've looked at how to carry out an HP site check. I have a last question. If we find one anomaly in the checklist, what do we do?
If we find an anomaly, we stop everything. When we create a checklist, there are yes and no checkboxes. With just one no ticked off, we don't start the work, or we pause the works in hand, we check with the manager, we phone the client, we redo the operation procedure if required, and we restart the works with a complete new checklist. Whatever we do not put ourselves in danger. The second point is, even if the checklist is okay, something could happen to the works, so same thing, we stop the works.
So, to carry out an HP site audit, we first look at the documents, the operating procedure, the work permit, and the checklist. Next, we check the manpower, the number of people, do they have the habilitations, and do they have their PPE? And finally, the general organisation of the work site. Is it cordoned off properly? Do we have the 6 meters? Have we grounded correctly? Have we got the retention systems in order to check off our HP site?
Yeah, that is spot on, Oliver. You are now ready to carry out an audit.
And you too.
Get the funk. Get the soul. Get the groove going. Just don't stop, baby. Where every man was each other's brother. All night, baby.
Là, au niveau de la vision, on est bien.
Bon, messieurs, ça tourne. Sinon,
Tu l'entendras après.
peut-être, ouais.
On y va. Ah, c'est là. Ça
Attends,
file.
attends,
La batterie.
Bonjour.
Est-ce que... ils ont leurs EPI?
On va la refaire.
On va la refaire.